Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Debbie, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Guillaume, it's lovely to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's do this. Let's jump straight in. So tell us, Debbie, what pulled you into the fantastic world of organizational strategy and coaching? What got you into all this?
You know, it's so funny. You might say, if you look at my background, how on earth did a medieval historian end up in this space, right? Am I saying
That's what you'd wonder.
So, I mean, it was really happenstance. So long story short, after doing some work with Oxfam early on in my career and seeing sort of organizational change and strategy work happening, and then a long sort of storied career in various sectors, what I realized was a couple of things. One was that as an org development practitioner, I just saw the world in systems. Like once you see systems, you can't unsee systems. And two, I loved working with teams. The pace of change, the complexity of the world, we need teams. You know, one person can no longer navigate what's hitting us, right? So we need the power of teams. And yet we don't take time to really invest in teams and really set our teams up for success. And so when I realized I love working with teams, I'm good at working with teams. I'm really good at seeing systems and how can we unlock teams to achieve critical results so that we're not leaving the potential of teams on the table and we're not leaving the potential of impact on the table. That's actually when I decided it was time for me to leave the corporate world and sort of go out on my own and do this work and be able to have an even bigger impact than I was on sort of the internal industry side.
So tell us a bit more about the number one problem that you're solving now then. What is it that you help people with?
I'm going to say it's probably not number one. I think there's sort of two things that are happening. One, it's that teams are not recognizing just how to get out of their own way, right? So I think we're just so used to sort of inertia and just working with what they have. And they're great people, right? So people get to the C-suite, they get to being there by being great at their jobs, great at their functions. And yet that doesn't make a great C-suite, right? So how do you actually get to diagnose and say, well, what's working well? And how do we actually get from leading a function to leading the organization? And what behaviors do we need to dial up? What behaviors do we need to dial down? But also in service of what, right? So what's happening at the strategy level? What's happening at the organizational level? What's happening at the macro environment level? And in order to do that, we need to look at we need to sort of help build their sort of systemic team view. So I think that the one thing is just understanding sort of how are they viewing their sort of team sort of mindset and able to see that. And then how are we able to help them prioritize and say, okay, given where we are from a business perspective, given what's going on in the world right now, and from a strategy perspective, here's what we need to focus on from an internal team perspective, and here's what we need to focus on from a business perspective. So those are the two things that I see that teams are struggling with, and I can help them sort of unlock both of those things, and through working on themselves, get those business results, if that makes sense.
It does, but then that leads me to the question of who is it that you help specifically then? And let me be a bit more precise with this question. I feel there's going to be the person benefiting from your help and the decision maker who might be a different person, or is it not?
So in terms of who I most like to work with, I mean, it really, in some ways, it is the C-suite, but it also could be a divisional sort of leadership team. So I think it's any sort of senior team. So whether it's the ultimate senior team, or it's a senior enough team with a very significant sort of P&L, right? often, I think, based on my background of being a former chief talent officer, right? So I know CTOs, I know CHROs, the ones that understand teams, that understand business. That's often how I'm brought in. But are they the ultimate decision maker? No. I mean, it's going to be the CEO, right? So the CEO has to say, I'm looking at my team. I'm looking at myself. Am I willing to invest in the team to say, are we getting enough out of the senior team? So I think that's ultimately the decision maker. But again, it also could be a division level team, in which case, is it the CHRO still, or is it, a division president, et cetera, who just knows of me just based on prior client work, et cetera. I can come in at multiple levels, but I really like just making sure that the senior leader of that team understands his or her role, because they have to be willing to get data on themselves and how they're leading. And they have to be willing for the team to look at themselves and to get data on the team, and for the team to make decisions on where they need to work. So as long as that senior leader is willing to do that at any level in the organization, I'm willing to do the work with them.
I like that. So that's interesting, because how do you then get the attention of the right people, Debbie? So my question is around marketing, right? If you're targeting the C-suite, but you can do with the leadership team, but the decision maker is going to be the CEO regardless. How do you brand? How do you market? How do you make people problem aware? Because I think there's going to be, and you're going to tell us about it, but I think there's going to be a dimension of education in your space, not just like, hey, sales bad, I can help you with sales. No, it's a bit more like there is more education to be made here. Yeah. So how do you brand and market to get the attention of the right people and convince the decision maker that it's worth investing into what you do?
That is, I'm probably dating myself when I say that's the $64,000 question, which obviously is worth a lot more today. So I go back to my roots, right? So coming from HR for the latter part of my career. So the first part of my career wasn't in HR, latter part was. I spent a lot of time with CHROs, CPOs, chief talent officers, and I lead workshops on unlocking senior teams, because again, it's a passion area of mine. And so partly because I believe very strongly in the role of strategic CHROs and strategic CPOs, right? Because they're at the table, they are advisors to the CEOs, and they see it, but they're also part of the system. So they can't do the work, right? But they know enough about, hey, our senior team can do better, or hey, we're already doing this work in the organization. So if they learn about me, that's how, they're able to bring me in. And then how do I then meet with the CEO? So that's usually a way that I'm able to come in. And I've got enough ways and tools, like, right, so I've got diagnostics that I can run with CEOs that they can, get to know me and my process. So yes, you're right. There is a lot of an education component, because the work that I do is multi-months. It's not like a once and done. It's not like a, 2-day offsite. It's usually like a diagnostic. There's, a multi-day session, and then there's going to be, multi times throughout the year that we're touching the team. And so I really need to make sure that the team leader understands this and is bought in and sees value, right? So there's opportunities once the CHRO understands that, and then bringing me in, and then me working with the CEO and saying, is the CEO ready? So if the CEO is ready, then it's how do we get the team ready? So yes, definitely, it is a long process.
But so I love this, because I mean, that's the $64,000 question and problem to solve. Like, this is, I suspect, in your industry, the constraint, right? You need to crack that nut, kind of. So what has worked for you marketing wise to get the right message in front of the right people, whilst educating the people who won't benefit directly, but indirectly, and who will be involved in the decision? Like, what actual marketing tactics have you implemented that have worked for you so that you pass that challenge?
Okay, so there's been a couple, lots of different tracks, right? So part of it is when I was internal and able to do similar work. So having clients and having case studies, et cetera. And so being able to talk to those division leaders and saying, who do you know that you can actually, right? So now as a division leader, it's an executive being able to say, what referrals do you have and people that you trust and you trust me, right? So it's a lot easier to have a local CEO talking to another local CEO. So that, of course, works. And then I continue to run these workshops so that I'm getting to know CHROs and more CHROs. I also continue to do one-on-one coaching, right? So as I continue to build my brand with organizations and coach executives, and whether I'm coaching CEOs, whether I'm coaching C-suite members, they get to know me as an individual coach. They get to see some of my offerings. Many times I'm coaching an executive and the challenge is the team. So when I talk about that from a one-on-one perspective, sometimes it will lead into, okay, well, there are things that we can do as a team. Right now, we're talking about one-on-one. If and when you want to talk about things that we can do as a team, let's have a separate conversation, because I don't want to get away from sort of the sanctity and what we're here to talk about and what your development plan is, right? But I'm clear that there's other work that we can do, and sometimes that can lead to an upsell. So does that make sense? So there's the three things, like the referral, the workshops that I do with CHROs, and then the sort of one-on-ones with sort of potential clients.
And I love it because that's, so you're making my job easier. So thanks a lot, Debbie. Because that kind of starts answering the next question as well, which is sales motion, right? So mainly referrals. I get it. That makes sense, right? You do a good job. People talk about you. You have more people coming to you. I have my personal opinion about referrals, but we can talk this after. So that's how you get attention. And give us a bit more like the juice of how the sales motion works. So how do you get people interested into the workshops? How do you make sure that you deliver a certain amount of value, but not too much, because you want them to work with you as well, but they need to get value. This is also, I suspect, where you're going to be able to build trust, authority. We discuss often on this podcast that if you can embed part of the delivery in the sales process, it's almost like we're already partner. Does it make sense to be even more partners? SOW, letter of engagement. So how do you articulate that in your business to make sure that you get the right attention, you deliver enough value so that they trust you and believe you? And at the same time, this allows you to actually work with them on the long term. How do you do that?
Yeah. And so when I'm hearing your language, so here's how I would translate it to what I'm doing. And you tell me, because I am not a marketer, right? So I am an OD practitioner, coach, and newer entrepreneur. So you'll give me feedback live, and I'm sure afterwards. Right. So when I think about this workshop, so first of all, your question was like, how do I make sure I'm getting the right people into the workshop? Right. So I started running these last year as unlocking senior teams. And I was very deliberate in terms of how I'm reaching out to CHROs, CPOs, and just they're free and they're small by design. And I run them because I believe in that role. I mean, I was a CTO from 2018 to 2023. So before the pandemic, during the pandemic, just after the pandemic. And if anything, I think the CPO, CHRO role is even more challenging and more critical now than it was in the pandemic. So it is a role I value, I believe in, and I want to give back to. I believe in senior teams. I believe I have something to give. I believe that's my sweet spot. So I'm trying to offer these workshops. They're free. They're small by design. And I have people join them. So I've run them 3 times now. The last one I had 10 people join. All 10 said, I loved it. 3.5 hours. It was hands-on, built community, got real content. They're able to apply right away. And then I offer, hey, like there's an opportunity to do, some further things. And from that, there's an opportunity to use an assessment tool that kind of takes one of the concepts I'm doing and goes deeper. And then from that, if they like that is something then that they also could bring to their CEO, right? So that's a way of saying like, look, I'm going to offer this for free to you. But if you like this and you think your CEO would, because they're interested in the workshop because they think this is relevant for them, right? So they're only showing up because they're interested in their topic and they believe in me and they believe enough to say, okay, it's worth my time. So I already get an executive to give me 3.5 hours of their time. They show up, they stay the whole time. then they're willing to do something else with me for another hour and a half. Now, if they want to continue with me, they're continuing to build trust and build a relationship with me. But at that point, that's the last thing I'm doing for free. So if they want to continue, then it's going to turn into, okay, here's the work and here's the opportunity, which may, or, it may turn into paid work. It may not, but at least they know me and they know maybe it's not the right time. Maybe my CEO isn't ready. Or at least it is, you know what, but I know you and I trust you. And I do think that you're probably a right coach for the organization. Or, hey, there is something for the senior team. Let's talk together about what's the right way to have that conversation. So that's where I'm at in terms of using that workshop and how to how to translate it.
This is great. So the workshop is in person, like physically?
No, it's virtual. So I'm getting people from all over, currently just from the US, just based on time zones.
How many people are in those workshops out of curiosity?
I've run it 3 times. 2 of them have had 10 and one had 6. So, and I'm going to try to keep it around 10. I
love that. So this is original. Not a lot of guests mention such a tactic, so I like it, and I'm going to double down on it.
Okay.
I think back to what we were saying, right? If you can embed the delivery into your sales cycle, you're going to do great. So I think this is a very good move. I think, and I see this with B2B coaches and consultants all the time, people like something, and then we try to call to action towards something else. And I see this to make the parallel with marketing and content. It's like, oh, I'm getting so many views on Instagram. I'm trying to send those views on YouTube long form. And there is some logic in that. I think in the sense of offers, what you just explained here is so good. When someone likes something, usually guess what they want more of? The exact same thing. So with your story of workshops, like, hey, we do this with you and we can do more of that together. And we can do more of that with other members of your team. This one is going to be paid work though, or a little bit less in free and then paid. So I love the tactic because it's providing value. You like this? How about we do more? And you continue an engagement like this, and you build trust, and therefore you reach the next people in the company thanks to this. So makes a lot of sense in my opinion. Just to make the parallel with marketing, what we want to do with short form content on Instagram, for instance, is do more short form content on Instagram. But then we need to leave clues and soft call to actions indeed to get people to go a bit further down the funnel, because it's a bit hard to convert people, especially high ticket like us, just from us B2B coaches and consultants, just from an Instagram short of 20 seconds. Closing the parenthesis. What do you do then, Debbie? So you did it, you signed them, people who love the workshop, they took more, and then they signed an engagement with you, the company signed an engagement with you. My next question is always around retention. At the end of the day, B2B coaches, consultants, we really grow when we're able to retain clients. Feeds the top of the funnel, right? With new leads, new people every time, but also the base stays solid and grow over time. How do you do that? How do you make sure that once you've delivered what you've delivered, get another engagement and then another engagement with the same clients, or another topic with another team? How do you do that?
It's a great question. And from a coaching perspective, I think when you think about B2B, the question becomes, where is the coaching engagement? Are we talking about one-on-one coaching, which then you go, how many people in your organization are eligible for one-on-one coaching? Are we talking about group coaching? Are we talking about team coaching? So my personal love is team coaching. I can always do executive coaching. I am in the process exactly of expanding my business and bringing in more coaches that work with me that love one-on-one. So I'm going to save my capacity for team and for group and for the strategy side. Meanwhile, the organization, because the organization only has so many teams, but they have a lot more one-on-ones. So if I'm able to do the work with the senior team, okay, well, maybe they're going to want, hey, I've got so many people in my organization or on my team that would need one-on-one coaching. Okay, I can bring in people to do that. Ooh, the CFO really liked the work that we did. Or, oh, my CFO says like, hey, I need work with my team. Okay, now this happens. So there are ways in which it makes sense at certain points in time, obviously, like, right, let's start, let's add value. Let's show the impact. let's get to know the organization, and those results will follow.
Amen to that. How do you, so I love those like nitty-gritty details. How do you embed referrals within this overall framework? Because there is so much potential and opportunity here. When you get 10 people into the same virtual room, right, there is so much ground for the next engagement, not necessarily within the same company, but also with like, hey, you like this? Invite your friends to the next workshop. I'm just assuming here, which I shouldn't. But so since you rely on referrals, how do you walk your referrals, make sure that they keep on coming through? Like, how do you articulate all this to then feed back into the loop of, hey, let's do more together?
Guillaume, you're probably going to say like, oh, Debbie, I'm going to give you a D on this one. I do not do a good job.
I'm not doing this. Interesting.
On the workshops, it's so interesting. So I have an amazing virtual assistant who she and I work together in terms of like how I'm working through my network of LinkedIn, which is like LinkedIn Sales Navigator is an amazing tool. And like, that's how I've really been able to find people for my workshop and how I'm just genuinely reaching out. And, so for October, right, I told you I had 10 people that ended up coming through. I had 30 people who responded that said, I love this topic. This timing is terrible. I'm either, son's getting married. I'm in the middle of an ERP implementation, whatever. Can you please let me know when the next one is?
Yeah.
They're the first people I'm reaching out to. But you would think that I would go back to the October 29th people and said, you all said you love this. Can you give me the names of a couple of people that you think I should invite? And I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do after we get off. So, I'm going to send an email to those 10 people and do just that. And I haven't done it. Because I'm so used to what I was doing before. So shame on me.
Not at all.
Yes. So I need to do a better job.
No, Debbie, so first of all, I love this because this is why I love doing this podcast. So here I'm going to talk to you, but also through you to the people listening to us. And it's not to put you on the spot at all, but what you just explained here is the perfect thing to do. So in my opinion, relying only on referrals is good when you start off. And that's the proof that you're doing a good job. And if you're not getting referrals as a B2B coach or consultant, fix the offer first, 100%. And if that's the goal, right? Because that's not everybody's goal, but once the goal is to grow, I think you need to implement an acquisition channel on top. That's my personal opinion. But if you double down on referrals, there is so many opportunities to actually make it an acquisition channel. And what you just said here is absolutely perfect. And I would go even like a layer deeper, which is, hey, you mentioned that you love the workshop. I love working with people like you. Who else do you know who's as awesome as you that could benefit from the workshop? And when you ask it like this, ideally you want to ask it in a conversation, even virtual. And here again, talking to you, but to the audience as well. Don't say, do you know anybody? Say, who else do you know? Because that will make people think about it. And if you're live, they will always, very often, mention a couple of people. And this is why you say, amazing. Would you mind doing a 3-way introduction with me via email or via chat? And then I'll take it from there. Very few people will say no to that. And now you're getting an introduction directly to you, but from a third-party person. Murders it. And the reason I'm insisting on this is because it's great to rely on referral. And then if people are comfortable with that model, that's awesome. But then there are so many small things that you can do throughout the journey of your clients to get those referrals. I had a conversation with a coach who is in business for 26 years, a bit earlier today. And it was like, I ask for referrals all the time. Like, this is my number one way of getting business, but I'm like actively, and you don't want to ask it when the client is unhappy or, you're solving a big problem, but at the highest level of satisfaction, amazing way to do it. Closing the parenthesis, hopefully that helps people listening to us. Tell us a bit more about what you're trying to solve now, Debbie. What's the number one challenge that you want to, tackle, say in 2026? We are recording this at the beginning of January. Like, what's the one nut that you're looking forward to crack so that you can take the whole business to the next level?
Can I cheat and give two since I'm
Please.
going? Okay. So on the team front, it's so interesting, right? So you would think that I might say, wow, what is it with AI? What is it with dealing with these macro trends? Like, right, we are in this like time like of existential,
we are.
crisis. Yes. Okay. I say this as a former historian. Yes, there's a lot of stuff going on. I agree with that. At the same time, I will say senior teams are overwhelmed, still can't handle conflict, still can't make decisions in timely manners, still can't prioritize. If you can't do it now, like when are you going to do it? So for me, I would love for senior teams to be able to lean into the space and have constructive conflict, go over the line and come back and repair and restore and find that they are fine. Because through having constructive conflict, they will be able to get through decisions faster. They will be able to deal with the angst and stress will come down. And if the senior team can get just even 5% more productive, if they could breathe 5% more, right? What does it allow for the organization? So you might laugh and say that, but that is what I'm saying. It is the human side that I am continuing to focus on while this existential stuff is happening. For me on the business side, as someone who is looking to grow my business, right? I'm going, how do I move from solopreneur to small business owner to say like, all right, how am I scaling? It is how am I scaling smartly? And how am I making sure that I'm taking care of my coaching cadre and taking care of my clients and doing the work that I need to do and want to do, all in a sustainable way? Because I think hopefully you've got the sense sustainability is so important to me. Sustainable business results, sustainable humanity, and right, is just really important to me. That's part of why I do the work that I do.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be a role model coach, a role model to my boys, a role model to my clients. And it's just, how am I going to do that all? That's, I think, my question.
So we are getting a bit outside of business here. It's a tangent, but I like what you say here. And I think eating your own dog food is super important in 2026. I think, and fourth, of course. I think authenticity and transparency are going to win in 2026. I mean, people who are authentic and who are transparent will win in 2026 and forth, simply because there is so many information out there. It's so easy to claim anything you want on the internet. AI makes it easier to come up with expert content. So I think embodying the very thing that you're helping other people with is critical. And you would probably not go to a fitness coach who is, 300 pounds heavier than they should. So what you just mentioned here, like being in line with what it's so important to me, because that's also the thing that I help people with, doing it in a sustainable manner. I love that. Debbie, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
So I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn for sure. You can also find me at theplagergroup.com. And one thing I'm gonna counter with, instead of eating my own dog food, I like to say drinking my own champagne.
Are you saying this because I'm French?
No, I've been saying that for 20 years. So I love the fact that I'm saying that to you because you're French.
I like that. You know what? Let's go with it.
Okay,
drinking my own champagne.
Cheers.
I don't even know where the expression eating your own dog food comes from. That's super bizarre. That's super bizarre.
It's rather disgusting. I like drinking my own champagne. Thank you. Especially here.
Gotta love bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie, thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders. We'll, of course, put all the links in the description. I can say one thing for sure is that you've got at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you. Thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.